just looking at the need to get with coaches per room. You try to go and you try and be with every group, but there's not going to be a point where I can just always maybe get to another group. So between, Coach OD, Cassie, when you're working with volleyball freshmen or something like that, there's just going to have to be a lot of communication between the coaches and helping out. I want to be able to get to every group, but it's going to be to get everybody started. That first day, it's just going to be, I hate to say it's going to be chaos, but it probably will be. I don't want it to be. My head's spinning as it is, so I don't know. We'll see what happens comes Monday. If you see me pass out, go ahead and use the paddles to get my heart going again. That's fine.
Nope, AED.
Yeah.
There's one by the weight room will be good.
Maybe I
think they pulled them all off for construction, so you might be in trouble.
I'm just gonna carry one with me then.
Sorry.
I heard this quote that made me think of this whole situation. And you brought up, day one, Monday, and I thought right away of this. Something to the effect of, don't be paralyzed by perfect. Because it ain't going to be perfect, man. It's going to be a mess. We can strive for perfection, but we got to be flexible.
Yep. Embrace the chaos.
I think right now it just needs to be good enough.
Yeah.
We'll just go on for good.
They don't know that it's not perfect. We got to sell it that it is perfect. That's all.
And
all in the dramatics.
One thing I got to tell myself too, that if it's not perfect is for the last however many weeks, we've had no control over these kids at all. We've had zero, I don't know. So if we get 10% control on Monday or 50% control, I mean, control is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like being able to work with our guys, that's a good thing.
I'd rather interact with one kid than 0 kids.
Yeah.
Well, my thoughts on the whole thing with perfection is we as coaches sit here and we have this unattainable goal of perfection. And then at the same time, we always preach, we want to practice like we play. Well, how many perfect games have been played in the history of athletics ever? So I've gotten past the whole strive for perfection. Let's make kids that are adaptable, can get something done amidst the chaos, because that's probably a little more game-like than anything. So if we embrace the chaos, they embrace the chaos, we get after it, we get better. There's no perfect plan out there. So
I think remembering, and this is maybe for you coaches as you go into it, we're going to talk a lot the first day. Just getting them in place, organization, talking them through and understanding what we're going to be doing, even just over the next 2 weeks. Just stop. We're going to slowly going to get warmed up. We're slowly going to get through this exercise. We're going to slowly transition over to the other side, whatever that may be. Take your time, because remember we have freshmen in there too that they had no camp, they had none of that. We have to explain to them that, look, today you may barely sweat. I don't know, you may or may not. I don't know how hot it is in here, but just for that day or over a couple days, we got to slow play the whole thing. Not ideal for me. I want to jump in and let's go to work. The older cats, they should be good to go. We'll get them going. But all those extra rules, things that they need to follow, things they need to understand, that we have to abide by as well as coaches, they have to understand that too. So, it's placing a lot of extra effort in cleaning your stuff up, keeping your distance. When we say go to the hallway, you go to the hallway, you stand there, you don't move. Let the other group come through. When we say you got to leave the campus, get off the campus immediately. Not because I care. I want them to stay as long as possible. But, man, if we screw this up, we're the guinea pigs, and we can't screw it up. We have to do this right, or else we got no fall.
And I think kids will. I think if you put it in that way, that kids understand what the consequences of not doing this right are. You know, if we hadn't have lost a spring season, that would probably fall on deaf ears. But those kids have now realized that people aren't messing around, and they play a part in making it happen in the fall. So I think they'll listen.
With those on here, I mean, there's not many, but
I'm recording.
schedule-wise, does
We'll send
anybody
it
have
out.
issues? Specifically between volleyball, basketball, did you get that figured out, Coach G, with the
Best of
freshmen?
our ability, yeah.
Okay. How did that work with freshmen? You had some crossover girls.
But I think that she had like 23 freshmen and we had a fair amount, so I don't think that's going to work.
Pair of what?
I don't think it's not going to work to put all the freshmen in one group.
Right. You know, I knew that too. I was just trying to get, if we compacted as many as possible and not had half and half or something, we get as many as possible. But I mean, if you guys did something different, I'm okay with it. I just wanted to try and put in, I thought that 23 was a really good number into one group.
Well, we have 18 or 19 as of right now, so I sent those to Katie and she's going to put them in group or
Okay.
switch groups up. So
Andy, I think Katie is adjusting our groups for the girls that are double, like
yeah, she,
basketball and volleyball.
so
They're all in the same group, so they'll overlap nicely.
Hey, Karen,
Yeah.
could you explain the like the mobile process of how we're going to need to move about? Are we entering and exiting the same front doors after we go through, or how is that going to happen?
Yeah, and you guys got one of the easiest groups because I believe it's just wrestling at this point. I don't know how many you have for sure.
Yeah, I don't either.
Even if it's, I can't imagine what, 40 maybe per number. Let's say you have two different groups. As long as, you know, well, technically, I mean, they could be coming in at the same time. But for the guys, you know, let's take volleyball and basketball coming in, or even the football guys. If they're coming in, if they're going to go to the weight room first, they're coming in the east side of the building, where all the teachers and everybody come in. If they're going into the gym first, they're going to go from the main entrance or west side of the building, wherever that is, wherever the best entrance is over there. I don't know. It's kind of clustered up over there. As they come in, they do their routine. Typically, the people in the gym are going to get done first. Most likely. We can transfer them into the hallway as the group in the weight room can move over into the gym, and then we slide them in behind them, so they should never actually cross paths at all. And because of the 15-minute stagger time for the other group, that should never affect anything. They should never cross each other.
Gotcha. Okay, so those that are in the if there's two groups, there's those in the weight room. Well, they stay in that room and just rotate out. Is that what you were saying?
If they're in the weight room first,
Yeah.
so they'd be in the weight room, you know, go through their lifting process. If there's a group in the gym at that time, whichever one finishes first, and likely it's going to be the gym kids, we could get them into the hallway kind of by the locker rooms and let the people in the weight room cross over, get them all over there, and then we can file the kids from
Gotcha.
the gym back in.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, man.
Got to give Coach Pullman a shout out for putting that freaking puzzle together, man.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Seriously, with you know, I don't know how many drafts you went through, and I know you don't either. I mean, it was just a constant draft process. But at the witching hour, when we were told that groups had to be staggered, then that's when I definitely thought you were going to just take the whole thing.
That's kind of like that,
Oh, because it's like, gosh, man, because we had a good plan, a really good plan without the stagger, and and then I thought that was going to be crazy, but yeah, no, I think it's going to work. It's going to work all right without elongating the whole day too much. So good work.
Yeah, hopefully not. And I think Coach OD and I got back and forth each other on text and phone like most of the weekend. Figuring it out.
A lot of crown.
And Coach Johansson, that's 4:00 is good. No problems. Couple days a week.
Yep. Nope. Monday, Thursday, 4:00.
Yeah.
I got it covered. Yep.
Those numbers between the exact times between you and wrestling, I mean, really, there's not going to be enough to matter, and between the two, and the crossover shouldn't matter at all.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you'll be able to see each other. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I won't have 25 kids. I mean, I just have one group anyway, and
Same here.
yeah, so we'll be good.
Yep.
And then especially with your two groups, maybe other ones, but with the numbers and by the time of the day, I'm going to be there basically all day Monday, but by days after that, being able to stick around, you guys probably have to do your own screening and stuff. I talked to Cheyenne. She's got all that stuff for you.
Yeah. She said she's going to email me and get in contact with me about that. So, yeah, I'll take care of it.
Props to Cheyenne too. I know she's not on this deal, but about an hour ago, I just thought that if we had somebody else, this whole thing, if we had I don't know, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about doing, safety and precautions and guide, but there's always somebody that could want to just really go overboard with a lot of restrictions and Cheyenne's being very practical, safe, in my opinion. So I'm glad we got her running that side of things.
Yeah, and good on her. I think there are other trainers that probably give the big FU. I'm not doing all this, but she actually said that she's got nothing. She's been bored at home, so she really wants to do all this. So that's good.
Yep. And I know other trainers would go way overboard. Remember Bubba was talking about, the plexiglass and taking temperatures through the hole in the plexiglass. And I don't know. Is it a good practice? Yeah. But those lifting in hazmat suits and where do you stop? And I think Cheyenne is being just very practical with the whole thing. I appreciate that.
It's hard to think if you had to lift in a hazmat suit that you could play a football game in September. Yeah. So, no, it's only May, but.
Can anyone get a hold of Papio South Titan masks? That would be the best.
That'd be cool.
I talked to Spilker at one point, and I joked, are we going to have to teach in masks during the school year? And I thought he said he and Prusha were already working on it. So,
I want one.
That might.
I've tried to ask around. If I got to wear a mask, then I want to do it with style.
And then just today, Coach Pullman, I don't know. Well, you saw that email about the hearing impaired. There's a kid who's hearing impaired. So.
Hey now.
Well, saying Miss Spellman is working on getting us masks with a clear deal.
Oh.
He could read lips and stuff like that. So we might.
That'd be for me.
We might be doing that.
You get a little hair off those lips, I'd be able to read them.
Now here's my question. I've been emailing VA as we've been meeting, and so I had the question about the waiver, and now he's telling who's managing the outside groups. Is there anybody that we know of that's kind of new? I'm assuming that's not falling under Coach Pullman's duties to have to manage all the outdoor groups. But he just requested that cross country meet on campus and not offside. So we'll have to get some. We just need an outside time. We don't need in the weight room rotation. We'll just have to make sure. So.
Yeah, and then, like I said, if it comes up, that's softball's basically only taking two rooms out of all of it, so there's availability.
Well, we don't need. I don't need to be in the building. We just need to get. I just need a place that we can meet and go out for a run. So. But that waiver form specifically said everything was for on-campus activities, and we were planning to meet off-campus, so that throws a little bit of a wrinkle in our plan. So I'm glad we're not starting June 1st. Time to figure it out.
So with all of this, Coach H or Kurt, whatever, do you guys need help? Like, should I be as a coach? I could come whenever is needed to help with anything, or am I just in the way and giving COVID to somebody else, or what? Or I mean, where are you guys at with that?
You mean help with other teams?
Yeah.
Coaches, you could tell me, but for sure. But I'm assuming that we should have enough assistants, et cetera, to cover each of our rooms, et cetera.
The teams.
For teams.
I think volleyball's gonna have 3 coaches there every day, at least.
Right.
That covers.
And with boys and girls basketball, that should cover plenty of rooms, and I'll be in there, obviously. Coach Heiser just sent me a text. What if incoming freshman interested in lifting, if he had more, is there a different time slot? My guess on that one, if he was to go over for any reason, I'm probably look at jumping in later in the day with baseball or maybe wrestling then if he needed to.
All right.
A lot of those get covered too because you have multi-sport, football, basketball, baseball, whatever, freshmen that come in, so they get covered during that freshman time slot.
Well, any other thoughts on Monday and getting going, or? The only other thing I thought we could talk about today, this has kind of been on the back burner the last, it seems like a long time since we've had any conversations, but about the Titan Athletic Development Academy. And I thought as we make some plans for that, put some thoughts into that, it'd probably be good to define what our, we talk about focusing on just not so much skill, but athleticism, define what that means. So we kind of have some guiding definitions as we put some work together in that. So I don't know if anybody put any thoughts or has any thoughts on that at all.
You can pencil mine in, Jeremy. You know what it is.
What's that?
I said you can pencil my idea, and you know what it is. Max velocity, speed.
Yeah, I know with the freshmen we see just the deficiency in basic movements in the weight room. So, squatting, in terms of just their body weight, just different types of movements like that, it seems like would be a good focus as well, for that type of deal. I know we talked a little bit about that, but Kurt, there's a handful of things that checklists that, we would like to see kids be better at, as they come in. It would help the transition for them. But what are some of those basic movements, Kurt, that you would like to see them to be starting to get better at that age?
So Coach, you asked about 3 to 5 things about athleticism. This is something that, whether it be at clinics, through books, certifications, things like that, that type of thing comes up. I guess it becomes, what's your most important type things, and a lot of them come down to about 3 to 5. I could actually go up to 10 if you wanted to split some of that up. But some of them can be combined together. If you go back to just those words, what is your best athleticism? The same things come up, and it becomes, I put power and strength in the same one, at least in terms of the kids we're talking about right now. We're talking about we're talking about before junior high, right? The one for this. So that power strength may be coming from not just weights on your back. We're talking power in terms of jumping, explosiveness, etc. So those I combine together. Coach, you said speed. Yes, that becomes a big one. And then you group in agility. So you have those 3, but we can't remember anaerobic and aerobic capacity. And sometimes that's because if they don't have that capacity to do those things, we can't get them to go hard, or so I shouldn't even say go hard, do the sprint work or do the agility work if they can't even run from here to there without bending over and dying on the floor because they're just so tired. So that becomes one as well, our capacity, whether it be both aerobic or anaerobic. And then you can put them all together, but you got balance, coordination, and mobility. And this might be maybe a bigger one early on in these stages, because if they don't have that balance and mobility and coordination, we can't get them to do any one of those things. The speed, the power, the agility, because they don't have that to begin with. So that might be something we have to look at as the first thing. And flexibility is in that. That's with mobility. I don't put I put those 2 together for me when it comes to that. So that's 3 to 5, depending on the category you put them in. So there you have to start going, okay, what's number 1, number 2, number 3 from that point. And again, that may depend on your age level. If we were talking about high school kids, well, we hope we got better coordination and balance anyway. But as kids in 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade, that might be different, depending on if they've been sitting all day playing video games or they actually get outside and do something.
I've been reading some articles and some research on like rotational strength and rotational mobility. And there's a lot of research out there right now that if you don't work in that, there's a window of opportunity to improve on that. And it actually happens in the age groups that we're talking about. By the time a kid is like 18, 19 years old, I mean, you can improve some things, but it's really the body starts to, the way they almost phrase it, and this is not technical terms, it's just my interpretation of it, almost starts to lock up, like you've kind of lost the opportunity to improve. And when they're talking about like rotational strength and mobility, it'd be things like a baseball player swinging a bat and how they've got to rotate their hips through, and that torso rotation. I think of like a defensive back in football when they got to turn and run coming out of a back pedal. I'm just curious what your knowledge is to that, or would that be something we want to make sure that we include if there is kind of a sweet spot of window to develop and build that?
Anybody else speak in on this too, but I believe that could be, maybe we're talking categories again, or where it needs to be built into with maybe mobility. But maybe this answers the question better. Let's take something like a speed ladder, which in a lot of realms and a lot of strength coaches would tell you, speed ladders may be worthless, and that's fine. in some cases it might be good though too, with maybe this level of kids, if you're working their foot speed and hip rotation when they're doing those exercises, you've combined both the foot speed, the agility, and their hip rotation, depending on the drill that you're doing into that. Are you talking more hip strength or actually just being able to turn your hips quickly, etc.?
I think it's a combination of the two. So, and part of the reason this is kind of my interest has been sparked in this area is as I deal with my own runners, many of whom come out of sports that involve other rotation, is we just deal with a lot of hip issues, that really don't impact our sport because we're much more straight away. But I just think we deal with a lot of soccer kids specifically who, there's just a lot of hip issues. And so I'm just wondering if that can be an injury prevention thing, if we have this academy and we're working with some younger kids, thinking about preventing things that we see at the high school level. That's kind of where my thought has come out of this. So
Throw out a word that might address that, I guess, when you're talking about a baseball player swinging, you're talking about a defensive back flipping his hips and going, and just that rotation and stuff. One thing that I've been obsessed with over the last couple of years, Coach Pullman and OD have heard me talk about it a ton, is just reaction. So many of our sports are based around reaction. Now your straight ahead stuff, not as much, I guess, but and it goes back to the old man on the porch complaining about kids don't get out and play anymore, right? They don't roll out the ball and pick teams and pick up games and stuff. And so I think that's where previous generations probably just, we can cover kids, on a basketball court because that's what we did, but that might be part of it. So just the concept of reaction. Now, how you build that into an academy without it looking like, free for all, for parents and stuff, or paying for it. I think you can do it. But I've read a lot of stuff. That's one of the best, and we might have talked about on here, one of the best things to teach that stuff is playing tag, even at the high school level. Just having kids play freaking tag in a small space and stuff. But the practical side of my brain is if we do that too much in this academy, some dad who's a mechanic might look out there saying, what the hell am I paying this money for? Kids playing tag. But I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I think there's something there being missed. I think a lot of our kids do a good job with predetermined agility, pro agility, T-drill, other things like that. And I think there's a time and a place to develop those movements and that, those muscles and stuff. Then I keep wanting to try to find more spontaneous agility where there is not a predetermined outcome or a predetermined path or something like that. Because in football, whether you're offensive lineman, a quarterback, everybody uses that. So,
well, I think to your point about some dad watching, what in the heck am I paying for my kid to just come play tag? I think that goes to what we publicize about it and what we sell it. And to explain, if I was sitting down next to that dad, I'd sit here and say, okay, watch that kid move and tell me how much that looks like what's going to happen on a football field, on a basketball field. And now let's watch this. To your point of any cone drill, which one of those looks more like a sport, and I think, it just comes back to how we sell it.
Yep. Communication is important. Also, how you structure the workout or the training is important too. You wouldn't do it for 30 minutes.
Correct.
And you wouldn't do it every day or every session, but you'd sprinkle it in and something like that. I think, I don't know. To me, I think that crosses over to a lot of sports.
Yeah, I think tag,
Basketball. Yeah.
put tag, you put some flags on kids and watch how a kid moves their hips when they have flags on. I just always go back to when my kids played flag football, and that's probably the most agile and mobile they've ever been. You watch a kid how they'll try and turn their hips to try and avoid somebody pulling their flags. I always go back to when you guys were playing Powerball last year in the grass for a flag football conditioning from the American Gladiators. I mean, all those things are, I mean, great opportunities to get some mobility, and you do, like, we can go back to our word chaos. There needs to be some unpredictability, some chaos that they have to react to. That's good.
Which works out anyway. Sometimes when you get these drills, and I keep thinking of this kid that I train in here, and if I just told him to go do something, like you said, play tag, it would make more sense. So I show him a drill, and I get this glazed look, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so you put it into terms of playing tag, and all of a sudden they can move that's exactly what I want. But it takes so long for them to process why to do that. So even if they're playing it and they may be recording it or something and showing them later, but you know, saying, here's what you notice this now. You notice your hips doing this work while you're playing tag. That's what we're looking for.
So I don't know if anybody has anything else to add, but one thing that we did discuss, sort of tying back into a previous conversation, was the measurable stuff, to where we can test a kid on day one or week one, and 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, however long, you know, and you test throughout, but then when we're done, you can show the kid, you can show the parent, you can show coaches what kind of progress, where they came from. So I guess that would be something else to determine. What are the things that we would find important, the things that would cross over between sports, the measurable drills or sprints or whatever, and then just sort of stick to those and sort of use those as big pillars of the academy. I think zeroing in on those, I think that'd be good.
I'm typing notes as we're talking here today, so I'm gonna send out. I like that question. Anybody have any thoughts
I
on
just know that, I'm not saying these guys are the example or whatever at all. I just, because it sort of bothers me when you'll see on Twitter, you'll see a kid goes to one of these training facilities or whatever, and he'll have a little card, and it'll have like a before and an after thing, and it'll show all this improvement, and I get it, and those people are trying to get customers and all that stuff too, but yeah, multiple reasons I think doing something like that would be good, but that'd be another one just to sort of validate for some of these parents that, this stuff it's good and it's helping your kid.
Unfortunately, we have to play the game a little bit, and that would be a part of this as well. A couple of things.
So I think.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, I'm thinking too, as in terms of, we call it testing. I would be more along the lines of assessment of movement patterns, and you're assessing, and that it comes to Coach, you said something about pillars, and that's what it is. We have to define whether it be, like you said, 3 up to 5, whatever those pillars of athleticism are going to be first, before we can decide what those tests are going to be. So if stability means, doing a squat assessment test or doing a single leg balance test, I don't know what, we got to decide what that might be. If velocity, we were able to take, a testing of speed, if we can test jump for height, etc. That's still playing the game, but understanding that this is what we're testing is their power through this, not how much they can bench, squat, whatever that may be. We still have to find out what their mobility, what their agility is, stability. Those I'm not trying to rhyme on purpose, but those all did rhyme with each other. Just so you know.
Well, if we can get them to rhyme, then it'll be easier for a kid to remember them when we say, hey, here's what we want you to do. So.
Well,
to me,
it's
go ahead.
Speed, we can do a 10-yard fly is the best indicator of speed, 10-yard fly. In terms of power, in my world in track, in terms of power, we do things like just a standing broad, like a standing long jump or broad jump. 3 bounds, another indication of power. Even like an underhand, like med ball toss is another indication of power. So those are 3 tests that are pretty common in the track world when you're trying to look for just pure power. So those come to mind immediately. Some of it's immeasurable, like we're talking about range, movement patterns and range of motion stuff. Like I know it when I see it, but I don't know how you quantify. I don't know how you quantify it, other than like if I'm watching a kid do a 10-yard fly, I can point out too much backswing on the leg, not enough knee drive. Like I can see it, but I don't know how you quantify that or how you communicate the improvement to parents. I don't know. I agree. I think range of motion and movement pattern is huge, probably the most important thing. But that's the toughest one to quantify.
Well, and
If we have more technology, if we are able to do, whether it be a video assessment of the squat pattern, overhead squat assessment, that's been going on for years, just to see if that's going to be our balance, stability, or if we have mobility for that matter. Because you're going to watch half these kids do squats and their knees are going to cave in and they can barely get low enough because many reasons. So, and then, even, if we're going to do numbers testing, I think obviously the flying different sprints that Coach Johansson was talking about, the power's fine with the assessment of the med ball. But, there's numbers of coordination type movements that we could probably hand-eye coordination movements, things like that we could be, if there's not a numbers game, we have to at least show maybe a video before and after with an assessment going through it. Maybe it's just video on now and coaches go through and assess, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this.
Yeah.
Beginning at the end.
I have tons of movement pattern stuff that we do in track that would be applicable. And there's the difference from day one to whatever day we're on is quite remarkable, just because they've never done it before.
That's why I wondered too, if some of these, I like the idea of getting some video analysis. I mean, it's one thing to put a number on a paper. It's another thing to show a kid, here's what you look like before, here's what you look like now. And the same thing for a parent. In some of these, the video would be, you can almost do a numbers test and a video on top of each other. If we're running a 10-meter fly and we can have a camera going that's just recording those kids as we go, and then you can see, then you can do a quick analysis of, are we moving correctly? And make some simple feedback that way. Obviously those things are going to be a little bit time involved, but some of that can be happening as it's going on those assessment days. I think you could knock it out pretty quickly. Then the question just becomes, how do you get that video? If you want to go some video analysis, how do you get that to people? I'm not in the huddle world. I don't know how easy that is to manage and work with, if that'd be something that we could employ in this process.
Well, I was gonna throw in, if you could put it in the notes. First step would be to try to acquire some iPads from Mr. Garrett. Well, I guess Bubba now. Hopefully there are some that I'm not saying that we'd have to use exclusively for this, but they would be readily available so we could do that. There are different apps where, you know, you can record, and there's a bunch of different things where you can do slow-mo and different things and teach from it and stuff. Yeah. So as far as like sharing, you know, with, I mean, there's got to be easier, slicker ways of doing it, but even just, you know, Google Drives and different things like that, and sharing it with the parents and stuff. You know, that's one way. But there might be an actual app where you could do that. Oh, elementary.
Maybe something cool in Google we can use when we transition.
Yeah. Coach Johansson, what's that timing system you want to get called? You're on a blank on that.
Free lap.
Free lap.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. Well, I had talked to, before all this happened, I'd been talking to coach on this. When I talked to the coach at Constub, I think I told you that, Coach H.
Yeah.
They basically said, go with it. There's some different small issues in terms of like maybe running your agility work with it. It doesn't do as well, but your straight line stuff and getting the numbers in will work. You know, even with our large groups at the stations, it can work. We just have to, you have to make sure they're far enough apart, etc. There's some small things that he told me, but he didn't hesitate to say, if you got the opportunity, do it. So I talked to VA, but that obviously got tabled with all this, so I haven't gotten back on that one yet, but trying to get it.
Yeah, because I had contacted him about the same thing, and it was right before all this went down, so I haven't talked to him since.
For those on here who don't know what a free lap system is, it's a timing system. It kind of uses the same technology that our chip timing system in cross country uses to an extent. Kids just have these little things that they clip onto their belt or like in their waistband of their shorts. It's just a little monitor, and that gets activated. Use 2 cones. It essentially kind of uses some kind of, I don't understand the technology behind it, some kind of radar system that it, you can just roll kids through and get their time just off of those chips. So you can process a large number of kids through and get times in a pretty quick process. I believe it shoots the times to an app on your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just do the app, or you can buy the little screen or whatever, whatever you want to call it, interface, but you can just send it to your phone.
I believe you can have one like hub too. If like you had an iPad and they would all go to.
Correct.
You could have a list of your athletes and they'll all go into it. I think I don't know everything on it yet, but.
Yep, that's true.
So pretty simple to set up because it's just 2 cones. You measure them out whatever distance apart you want, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Anything else equipment-wise we could think of that would be, a lot of the stuff that we've mentioned right now, probably utilizing things that we already have. But I got some iPads down off of Coach Clemenger's comment. Throw a free lap down.
And Clem, you're right there. I know there's apps for different, even for an overhead squat, you can actually make comments into, like Huddle, same way Huddle would be. There's apps like that that'll.
It'd be really awesome, and I know they're out there. Like each kid would have. I'm just thinking of like a Huddle, to where Huddle is the big thing, but each kid would have his own account, and you could store his videos or her videos in that account, and the parents can look at that and see the progress and stuff, and you can measure it over years, and yeah.
If there isn't, you just got rich on the idea.
Well, and back to Coach Young's point, it might be something we're going to have access to all those kids' school email address accounts, and if it's on Google, we just drop it in a folder that they've got on their drive, and they'd have it for I mean, however long they're part of the school district, I guess.
I think Clem's talking about Seesaw, which is a really cool app, but
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of expensive, I think, to run. But it is nice because you get that immediate feedback and it's back and forth. But like the interface itself, I think is a little too little kiddish for them. And I think like the app, they would really, I don't know. I'm hoping for Google. Come through Google.
It's called Seesaw is the app. I'm just going to make note of that. Okay.
Kids use it at the elementary, right?
Yeah. It's great for teachers because I take a picture of their work and it emails it straight to parents, and then they can send me a message right back like, oh, that looks great. And you're like, yeah, it's 2 p.m. Go back to work.
It is very little kids. So all my kids use it, and I get messages every day from them, and it's great, but it is very elementary.
And while we're brainstorming, that'd be awesome. This is high level stuff, but it'd be awesome somewhere in that app you could have video of like a model video of perfect running form, of perfect overhead squat form, you know, to where if a kid or a parent outside of the hour or so that we had them, you know, they could be watching, they could be looking at that stuff, you know. You could have sort of like the expectation of what you're hoping to achieve.
So again, is there any other equipment that, like Coach H said, that would be pertinent that we would need, or?
It would be nice to have, you know, our own equipment for it. You know what I mean? So not, you know, once this thing gets up and rolling, you know, you run into the PE, you know, equipment room and you're taking PE stuff, and then that stuff gets, you know, it would be nice if we just had a bag or something where, okay, this is the academy stuff and it's in this closet, and that's, I don't know. I guess I'm speaking for Coach OD, but I know football wise, sometimes we run into that sort of, we don't mean to do it, but like, hurry up, you know, give me 4 cones, and then next thing you know, this, you know, the basketball cones are missing, or the football, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be nice if we. That'd be good on all levels to kind of have separate bags of stuff for sure. Especially as Jill's listening, she's like, oh yeah. Always feeling the PE stuff.
I'm looking out for Miss OD.
Always.
Hey, that brings up another question. Is there storage area in the actual the TPC, or is it just the whole thing's just wide open?
Wide open right now, as far as I know. That doesn't mean that there can't be. Add it on.
You know, the new locker rooms or the locker room additions will naturally have maybe another closet or two that we don't currently have.
That's a good question, though. Where do we store that stuff as we?
I'm sure PE has some extra storage we could use.
Oh yeah, we have our equipment stays nice and secure 24/7, 7 days a week.
So to Coach Clemenger's point, even when we think about having our own equipment, I know we're kind of very early in all this and there's no programming been developed, but just if there's some obvious things that would be I mean, cones are obviously going to be a must.
I'd say med balls, plenty of like 5 to 8 pound med balls. Don't want anything too heavy.
Coach Pullman, do you want to put down speed ladders?
If we need more, I added 4 myself, so I don't. You can put it down. That could be one that we cross off later. Again, it's one that, I mean, even myself, I sit there wondering, do we need them? Do we not need them with certain things? But I keep coming back to reasons where we can use them. They're good. You may get that argument from a lot of other strength coaches, and it's a valid argument, but it doesn't hurt. I don't see how it hurts anything.
I think it goes back to just the drills that you do. You know, I think, yeah, you know, if you're just doing 1 foot in every hole, does that, you know, not, I mean, if your objective is to work on, you know, hip rotation, well then work on hip rotation with them, and don't waste time of doing, right, we're going to do 1 in every hole, then 1 every other hole, then we'll go side, you know, and I've been guilty of that 100%, but, you know, yeah.
I'm a ladder fan. We use it a couple days a week, even just for warm-up drills with our cross-country kids, just to get some different movement patterns in there. And you don't have to talk me into it, so I'm good. I like it. If we're going to work some running form stuff, we probably want some mini hurdles. Good news is those are cheap and easy to make with some PVC pipe.
Some of it as we get into, like I said, those exactly we need to assess. If I'm just looking at maybe with balance issues and coordination issues, I don't know, off the top of my head, you're thinking like Bosu ball possibly could be helpful. Just something maybe unstable to work on being stable.
What kind of ball did you say?
Bosu, BOSU, those half balls.
Oh, yeah. Never knew that's what they were called. Learned something new today. Let's just go back to our definition here real quick. I mean, if we had a few things that were thrown out there. So we have max velocity. Coach OD mentioned basic lifting movements. Climb got reaction in there. And then Pullman had his 5, power and strength, speed, agility, aerobic and anaerobic capacity, balance, coordination, mobility, and flexibility. Kind of had all grouped into one. Is there anything else that maybe as you process that we're missing? All right. Anybody else have any other thoughts for the day? I got to take off at about 2:45 here.
Nope, not at the moment.
All right.
Actually, since we're on, if Coach G and Coach Wright want to stay on, we can figure out that group if you haven't.
Cassie, you can stay too.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, hey, I do have a question for head coaches. So with 0 hour going bye-bye, we're really trying to ensure that we only have athletes in those athletic weight training classes. Like last year, we'd get some kids slip through. and maybe you guys just have it already. There's a lot of kids that are signed up. I just simply don't know. Do you guys have rosters easily available for upcoming 10th through 12th graders? Or would that be, if you did, could you send those to me and I can kind of cross-reference and make sure that we're getting the right kids in athletic weight training?
Coach OD, do you want me to add that when I email out coaches? Do you want me to email them? Want me to put that in the email for those who aren't on here?
Yeah, that'd be
And
nice.
tell them to send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I can do that.
You gonna filter through those rosters or send it to the counselor?
No, I was going to probably just filter through them.
He's going to fill out a blue sheet for it.
Good.
Well, and how does that work if a kid doesn't make a team?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's only so much we can do there, you know. If I would just say if they're part of the program or if you know, they're on the roster last year, just send them to me, I guess. I'm not sure. If a kid doesn't make a team and they're a good kid, we'll probably keep them in there, I would imagine. Because I know Brad's pretty set on making these decisions by a certain date, so you know, so they don't have to move a bunch of kids around. But
Right.
that's a good question, Coach.
I just have a couple kids who haven't ever played the game.
Sure.
I'm just, you know,
They're upperclassmen, like
Okay.
10 through.
I got a couple.
Interesting.
Coach OD, do you need one from me, or you basically got the football list, right?
Yep, I'm good with football. Yep, I'm good there.
Guys, a question. So we do need to have every parent sign the form for Monday, right? Is that the deal?
Mhm.
And they're going to have to do it there because we are not getting them ahead of time.
They're getting an electronic copy, and we'll have hard copies there on Monday, but they should all get an electronic copy. Was it today or tomorrow?
3:30 today it should go out.
Okay.
Okay.
So they could do it online and then it's done. And I think the kid has to do an electronic signature and the parent does too.
Okay. Because I'm going to send a message out. I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So.
Okay, so just to be clear, they're sending something at 3:30. They can sign it electronically. They don't need to print off anything and bring it. It can all be done electronically, and we can verify that on Monday.
VA made it sound like that he and or the secretaries are going to have printouts for us on Monday morning. Now, I don't know if they understand that we start at 6 a.m., but he made it sound like we'll have printouts. Coaches could stand at the door, check kids in, okay, you know, and then not let kids in if they don't have it signed. If the parent's still in the parking lot, they could run out a paper copy and get it signed. Or if they really need to or want to, they can run home and get their mom to sign it and then run back and then catch the end of the workout. But Coach
So
Fulman,
we're going to need to be basically out in the parking lot or whatever up front and catching kids as they come in that don't really have. Okay. All right.
for the first day or two, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that how you interpret it, Coach Pullman?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how this goes, but you know, I mean, they can't come in unless they have it signed.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody give VA a heads up, like we should have access to the database that the electronic forms are going to, because we're not gonna. You don't want us to call you at 5:30 on Monday. Give us access, and we can just look up whatever.
Does Cheyenne get that?
Maybe she does. I don't even know what database. I don't even know. I don't know
Or
nothing.
they're using, if it's a Google form, then that's easy. Then you just share the results page with us, so then we can search by person. But if they're doing like via email, print, sign, scan, email back, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was under the impression that Cheyenne would have that information because that's how she was going to keep her list, but could be wrong. I don't know.
Because I don't want to hear, I signed the waiver online last night. Like, okay, cool. I don't have it here. What are you going to do about it? It's not my problem.
Well, and like, I just hadn't heard. I mean, I was planning on sending my list of who was in which group to Cheyenne by tomorrow. Is that what everybody's doing so that she can have the lists of who's in what groups? Or should I just bring that on Monday? Or
both?
That's the part I thought she might have it, because when I asked her that, if she still needed to send, she still needed you guys to send that to her, she mentioned to me that she would already have the list.
but
So
where are
maybe
you getting it from? Because we're the ones
not for the group list, but for
Oh,
the check in.
in general. Check
She
in.
would have the number.
Okay. Got it.
All right.
It'll be
I
fun.
gotta call VA about some other stuff so I can throw out the whole stuff starting at 6 a.m. So how are they gonna know if waivers have been signed? So I can give them a heads up on that.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I gotta take off. I'll leave this meeting going for those who stay on. The next 2 weeks, if you saw my email, I'm gone the next 2 Thursdays. So if somebody else wants to host, by all means, carry on without me. But it'll be the middle of June before I'm back and available. So I'm gonna go spend some time in the mountains.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, but it just reminded me of something. Gym refinishing. What do we do then? Will we have access still? Not to the gyms, obviously, but we still can we still do our agility stuff and otherwise?
Didn't he say that would come later now?